Are you DTFF?
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Welcome back to DTFF, everyone. Happy Tuesday evening. I am excited to be here. We have a nice and toit episode for you this evening, talking tight ends. Oh, who doesn't like a good tight end discussion?
Arguably the noisiest, toitest episode in our history, Dustin.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Right? And how are you doing this evening, Jake?
I'm doing toit. I'm doing exceptionally toit. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm noise, but I'm definitely toit. That's not going to get old at all for listeners. No, I'm doing great, man. We have a lot to look forward to this week. Super Bowl, obviously, coming up this weekend. But you and I are outside of the football realm. We were just talking about we're going to a show tomorrow. Of the Smartless podcast, which, you know, after you're done listening to this podcast, I think listeners should go listen to that podcast.
Absolutely. Yes. Great podcast. Was it Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and
Will Arnett?
God, I suck. I listen to it so much. I know all their names so well. But no, it's a great, funny, non-football related podcast. If you want something like a palate cleanser, it's a perfect one.
Yeah. But obviously we're a palate cleanser, or are we more of no, we're like an amuse-bouche. We're like the pre-appetizer, right?
We're just the single bite.
Yes.
Amuse-bouche literally translate the single bite.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
So we're just the one bite appetizer.
Yeah. I'm more of like an amuse-douche, I think. It's a little bit different.
No arguments here.
You're supposed to stick up for me when I talk down to myself, Dustin.
You're a one bite douche. Nice.
A fun size douche.
You're a fun size douche. Yeah, you're like little Halloween candy douche.
This is so ridiculous already. But I think we're already just like buffering time, knowing that we have to talk about tight ends here from the past season and get into the nitty gritty with that. At least that's what I'm doing. So do we want to push it off a little bit longer and talk about what we drinking?
Yeah, let's do it. So this was provided by you, Jake. You know, tell us about it.
Yeah, I really do. I thought we'd had this on the podcast, but you said earlier that you don't think we did. So I'm sticking with your word here.
I don't recall this beer, but I drink a lot, so maybe we have, and I just don't remember. I don't know.
I love this beer. If we haven't had it on the podcast, we've definitely had it just out and about. It's by a company called Whole Hog. It's the Casper White Stout. It's a very interesting beer. Like it's wintertime, so we like the stouts. This is much different. I don't know what makes it a white stout, what that actually, but it's clear. It looks like a friggin' ale, but it's not a friggin' ale.
Yeah, this tastes like doesn't taste much like a white stout. It tastes more like a cream ale, or like with like vanilla in it.
I think it literally tastes like a cream soda, straight up like a freaking cream soda. I love it.
It's good.
Are you a fan?
It's good. It's definitely good, but I don't know that I would say it's a white stout. Typically, white stouts, they still have that kind of roasty flavor to it without the dark color. And that's why it's still categorized under the stout name. This doesn't have any like roasty coffee flavors. It's just vanilla.
I think you need to send a strongly worded letter to Whole Hog expressing your disbelief that this is a white stout. You're going to have to ask for proof.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad beer. It's very drinkable, very good. It's done well.
What do you give it? What do you give it out of 5?
I'd say 3.25.
Okay. All right.
It's above average.
I'm going to once again be on the higher end. I'll give it a solid 4.25. I really like this beer. I'm a big fan. But I also really like cream soda. So that tracks.
Oh, cream soda is delicious. Let's be honest.
I'm such a basic bitch. I love me some cream soda.
Yeah,
cream soda float.
Oh,
Next week, we should, instead of having beer, we should just have cream soda floats. I'm going to make that.
Is it okay if I still stick with root beer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do root beer float?
If you want to be that guy.
I do. I got to track me down in A&W, though, first.
Dubuque, Iowa, baby! Dubuque, Iowa.
Way to have those root beer floats. Fresh A&W root beer.
Shout out to Dubuque. Go across the bridge and get you some. Do we want to talk about the Super Bowl here? I feel like we should talk about the Super Bowl a little. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, hold on. Real quick. In the chat, Angie Spencer says red cream soda. I've never had.
Oh.
I've never had, Angie. Where is this from? How do I get my hands on this?
I know. I've never heard of this either.
It sounds wonderful, but I don't know what that really means. Maybe it's like the white stout thing. See, it's white stout, red cream soda. It's all about mixing and matching your perceptions here.
Apparently, it's the blow the mind.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing beverages. That's what the theme of this episode truly is, apparently. We can get it in Ohio, Angie says. So that's
nice.
That's good to know. Might have to send out for some red cream soda.
Or when we go to the expo this upcoming summer, we're going to pit stop all the way along until we find this goddamn red cream soda.
Touche. Fantasy Football Expo coming up later this summer. That will be a side stop for sure.
Yes.
You know who might end up in Canton one day, Dustin? Segue. Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, if Twitter is to believe right now, because it's maximum hype for Joey B.
Oh, and I am fully on board with it.
Yeah,
I love the feel-good story. I'm totally rooting for the Bengals here. I'm not going to lie. I've been rooting for them throughout the playoffs. From the AFC side, obviously, it's good that they're finally there. They're finally doing something after years of being terrible. Like and it's hard not to like them. Like they got such a young team. They're full of pluck. I like it. Yeah, they got moxie, got the swag. I just love it. I hope they win. That's going to be my rooting team this Super Bowl.
I hope that they win so that Joey B can go out and buy an endless supply of starter jackets. I'm sure he could already, but I think, just having that extra liquidity might help him stock the pantry.
And just think of all the cigars he could hold in the front pocket there. I mean, it'd just be nonstop.
So I think we have rooting interest in it for that reason. I would be okay either way if the Rams won, because look, I know we've had our issues, our ups and downs with Matt Stafford as Packers fans here, but seeing him go on and prosper on a team, he does deserve it after having to carry the bullshit load in Detroit for so long. It'd be nice for him to get that.
No, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but if I have to choose a team, it's going to be the Bengals. But feelings aside, Jake, who do you really think is going to win? Not who do you hope is going to win, but who do you think is going to win?
If I think truly, it's the Rams, because this is the matchup that I'm scared about for the Bengals offensive line. I know we talked about in previous episodes, like Joey Burrow has done incredible things despite a pretty ramshackle offensive line, but having to go up against the Rams defensive front is not quite like anything that they've had to do thus far. So if nothing else, I really want a close game. I would not be shocked, though, if this ends up like a 31-10 kind of semi-blowout.
Oof, that's rough. I hope it's not that. It's hard to say. I'm trying to take my feelings out of this because I still want the Bengals to win, and I feel like they're on a roll right now, and they've got that confidence that they can go in and actually win this.
They're chugging.
But I do think end of the day, Rams do have the home field advantage. They're playing in their home stadium this year. So I do think that ultimately the Rams will win it. McVay's got 2 weeks here to really game plan for one team. So I think he's going to come out with some stuff we haven't seen yet. And I do think that defense is going to come ready to play.
One fantasy question for you here before we move on into our, other areas of interest.
Dark Elf.
After this, what? What's in the world?
Wrong fantasy genre. Sorry.
Oh my God. You know what? Maybe you're the amuse douche. Now that I think about it. No, fantasy question after
I'm just
the Super
the
Bowl.
amused dork.
Okay, after the Super Bowl, I feel like any team that performs well in the Super Bowl or any player that performs well in the Super Bowl has this ridiculous value that most players don't on your fantasy roster. So from a dynasty perspective, let's say that somebody, and let's take a real stab in the dark here and say somebody like Tyler Boyd goes off in this game, just goes off in this game. That's the last image essentially from the season that people are left with. Is that the time where you just automatically move off of players like that in your leagues and try to sell for maximum value?
It's cheap answer here. It's team dependent.
I
know, but for someone like Tyler Boyd, yes. I mean, typically on my teams, he's like my third or fourth wide receiver. So yeah, if I could sell him and get first plus for him, absolutely, 100%. I'm thinking more of like what about say like Cooper Kupp after the season he had this year, and we all know he's a stud, and we expect more of the same at least next year, maybe the next couple years. But say he balls out and has like 10 receptions for like 160 yards and like 2 touchdowns,
So like a normal Cooper Kupp day.
But like you said, because it's the Super Bowl and like so many people are watching it, I mean, do you sell Cooper Kupp then and just get like 2 firsts for him? And
I think you can already get that for him pre-Super Bowl. I think you can get 2 firsts for Cooper Kupp right now. So my opinion wouldn't be changed of a star player like him. That's why I was curious to ask, because it is still player dependent. Like, everybody has strong opinions right now about a lot of these star players. I think it's more interesting to ask the other way. If a star player has a dud game in the Super Bowl, and that's the image people are left with, if Matt Stafford goes out there and just duds for some reason, if Jamar Chase goes out there and for some reason duds, do you then take that advantage, or is there even an advantage to get those guys at a value?
If there was a dip in value at that point, I would go after any of the key offensive pieces. I mean, especially someone like Stafford. I mean, Chase, I don't think that's going to happen, honestly. Or like Cooper Kupp, Higgins. Like if any of them throw up a dud, like Joe Mixon, I don't see a dip for any of them. I don't.
Yeah.
But maybe like I could see like Matt Stafford if he struggles just because of the stigma around his career. If there was a dip and an opportunity to buy, especially in like a super flex league as like your number 2 quarterback, that would I would love that. I would try to make that happen.
I like that. Let's put a pin in this conversation for next week after the Super Bowl and see if there's any players for us that fit that mold that we can talk about then, and maybe have a little mini, trade high, trade low type of conversation there.
Super Bowl edition. Yes, I like that.
Super Bowl edition. But, before we get to that, we have a lot of episode left. And before we get to the lot of the rest of our episode, I want to talk about my favorite segment.
Yeah, the trunk trade of the week. Let's do it.
Drunk, hammered, drunk.
Drunk trade of the week.
Apologies to Reddit users Quattro Bacon 1 through 3, because this week's submission comes from the one and only Quattro Bacon 4 on Reddit. That's right. They say needed space to add.
So that literally translates to 4 bacon 4.
4 bacon 4, baby. I think that's a new menu item on Wendy's, if I'm not mistaken. Now, a little context here. So this was during the season, and this was a redraft league. I'm going to preface this by saying this is really just a fun one that we get to sit back and laugh at. I'm not expecting hardcore analysis off this, but let's just enjoy it while we can here. So they say needed space to add a kicker. Red flag number 1 was pretty loaded all over. Now they're saying this from a team perspective. I'm thinking maybe up here in glug as well, because they traded Joe Mixon and Jalen Waddle for Antonio Gibson. That's it for right now. What do you think about that?
That's awful. Just awful. I mean, I guess what point of the season are we looking at here? I wish there was like what week this was, because if it's like early in the season,
yeah. Oh yeah. So this was submitted right after about week 4.
Okay, so fairly early in the season yet. Still doesn't make it that much better. I mean, you really have that much depth on your team that you can't afford to drop one player or an extra defense or something to pick up a kicker. I can't imagine you have that many studs that there's not one player you're like, I can drop this guy. You know,
should never
especially in a
redraft
league.
Yeah, you should never force yourself into this kind of trade for something silly like that. Like you're saying, there has to be other alternatives. I don't have the full roster here in front of me, but
tight end, maybe. I mean, there's got to be something you can trade away, like your 7th wide receiver. Like, I mean,
you couldn't have dropped, a Van Jefferson type to make this happen. Right. You couldn't have, or Tyler Boyd.
Chances are they would have been there the next week.
Yeah, it's very weird. Now, even with our admitted Joe Mixon hatred, I'm glad to hear we're on the same page. And I know we both liked Antonio Gibson a fair bit coming into the season too.
Absolutely.
And maybe at this point they weren't a believer in Waddle because it took, a
little bit for him to get going. Yeah.
And to stay steady and consistent and all that. So I can appreciate it, but my goodness. So the tail end of this, after the trade is made, then Derrick Henry went down and my season collapsed. Yeah, because you traded away depth here. Or you traded away, potential studs for this weird move to just free up a roster spot. Well, I didn't even mention that. Like, the value should almost be inverse. Like, again, Mixon over Gibson for us, even at that point in the season, right? So it's just, it's so much mind blower. Now they finish it off at least with an acknowledgement. No, I don't know why I made that trade. And yes, it haunts me as I lose my 4th straight game. At the time of submission, they were still working their way through the season and it didn't work out.
Well, yeah, that should haunt you because that was awful.
It's going to haunt you all off season.
Sorry, 4Bacon4. It's that was a just terrible trade. We haven't had a bad one like that for quite some time.
I know. I think people were nervous about submitting their worst trades. So from that perspective, 4Bacon4, we salute you.
Absolutely. Thank you for submitting that. All right. Should we do this? Get into our tight end discussion.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Just rip the Band-Aid off. I'm going to feign
excitement at least. You betcha.
All right. So, I guess we'll basically just go through the top 12, our consensus top 12, throw in some other guys in there that we want to talk about afterwards. But couple hits, couple misses, as we tend to do. We're not perfect. What? Shock. I know. So
especially with tight ends.
Yeah, we had Travis Kelce as our consensus number 1, finished number 2 overall. So I'd say that's a pretty good hit.
Pretty safe.
Yep. And then we had Darren Waller as our number 2. Finished points per game number 6, but overall 17th. Yes, there was I totally lost my train of thought because of the chat. Sorry.
He can't do 2 things at once.
I can't because the
injuries pop up.
The injury. Yes, that's what I meant to say. So I think we probably would have been fine, assuming he didn't get injured, because he was very high, 6 overall for points per game. So I feel like that trend would have continued and he would have finished much higher.
Probably. So you're not, just to put a pin on this, you're not worried about him for next year?
Not extremely worried. I probably won't have him. He'll probably be like my number 4, number 5 tight end when things are all said and done. I don't consider him part of that like top 3 elite anymore.
Oh, okay. So but that's a fair movement then.
It's what I have him as I had him 3 overall going in. So I mean, drop him a couple positions. Yeah.
But I feel like a couple of spots drop for a tight end is much different than a couple of spots dropping for a wide receiver, say, because the differential is so great at this position. Where it's like, by the time we get down to number 5 or 6 on the tight end list, you're already like, well, I'm really missing out on the top points here. So that is a significant movement, I think. And I don't think it's unwarranted.
And it's hard to say. I mean, with McDaniels going in there, and he's got familiarity using a big tight end in his offense when having Gronk there. So maybe things don't change, and obviously you're gonna scheme for your best players on your team. So that would be Waller and Renfro. Unless they bring in like a free agent wide receiver or something that would open things up a little bit. I don't know, but he just with the new coaching staff, probably just drop him down a spot or two.
Fair enough.
What about you?
I'm a little bit more out on him, I think, than you are. From a ranking perspective, probably not, but from an actual like acquisition perspective in leagues, he's not the belle of the ball, but I've always been cautious with him. I said it last year or the year before, whenever it was. I was worried he was going to be more Gary Barnage than anything. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's disproved that already. I did see rumblings that the new OC was going to try and emphasize more 2 tight end sets and utilize that a little bit more.
Oh, Foster Moreau season. Yes.
Yeah, it's somebody's season. I don't know if he can be trusted. I had high hopes for Foster Moreau. He didn't show anything this year. But, that would, I think, take away more looks than any other scheme change for him actually is. Yeah, he would still be the primary target, of course, but I think it would hurt his target share just a little bit. So, yeah, I'm cautious with him.
Mm-hmm. And then we had Kittle as our number 3, finished number 4, solid there. This one kind of stings a little bit. We had TJ Hawkinson at number 4, finished points per game 6, so not bad there. But again, injury, knocked him down to 15th overall. So that hurts there. But again, with injury, he was doing all the things we had hoped he would do in the points per game category. So he probably would have finished right up there in the mix with the other top tight end. So I don't feel too bad about that. The process was right. Let's put it that way.
Very fair. Hey, one thing I want to call out, because we are in the midst of tight end talks, and this chat comment is very relevant to that. So we just talked about a couple of these guys, right? Jason Thomas, shout out to Jason, mentioned in the chat previously about a trade that you two had, which we actually discussed on this show a couple, 3 weeks ago, I want to say. So listen into that one, Jason. But he says, in the same league that you guys made that trade, in the playoffs, he traded Waller and DeAndre Hopkins for Travis Kelce and Christian Kirk. Here's what I'm curious about. Obviously, we know how it transpired there. But this year, which combo would you rather have? Waller and Hopkins, Kelce and Kirk? Honest question.
For this next upcoming season?
Only for 2022 season.
I would probably say, ooh, that's tough. If I'm going for overall points, I'd probably do Waller and Hopkins. Because I do think Hopkins rebounds this year.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I don't think that Kelce is as much of like a guarantee anymore for me. Even though at the very end of the season, he started looking like his old young self. It's tough. And obviously the difference between Hopkins and Kirk is drastic for me. So just curious.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then our 5 overall. I can read. 5 overall, we had Kyle Pitts, finished 6th, but 11th in points per game. Again, I think that's more of a function of other tight ends were getting injured. That's why he finished 5th overall. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what that offense looks like this next year.
It's still so much of it comes down to Calvin Ridley, does it not? If Calvin Ridley comes back for next year, Matt Ryan is going to improve drastically. The entire offense should look a lot better, and there should be more opportunities for Pitts. And we don't have to worry about Ridley taking away things from Pitts because nothing existed to really be taken away from Kyle Pitts because red zone looks were not a thing for him. And that's the thing that should positively regress for him next year, you would hope. But I don't know if we can bank on it.
Yep, I agree. And then coming in, our number 6 overall was Mark Andrews, finished number 1 overall. That was a miss in the right direction. I think our process was probably fairly spot on with it, having him at 6, just outside that elite group of, the top 3 there. But who would have saw that he was going to get just force-fed targets this year and catch all those touchdowns? I mean, that was beautiful.
Right. Well, and who knew that, of course, Lamar Jackson missing time would give him such a boost. Like the backup quarterbacks coming in and just dominating with the targets into Andrews' chest area isn't something that I expected to happen. Like he doubled his target share basically while those guys were throwing the ball as opposed to Lamar there. So I do think that, without that, he probably would have been the 3rd or 4th guy, but those games were fantastic that you got.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably where I'll have him, in that kind of 3 to 4 range, probably 4 if I had to make a guess right now. So I think we're right about in the same wheelhouse there. We had Noah Fant, number 7, finished 12 overall. Bit of a miss there, but that whole offense was a bit of a miss and a mess.
Bummer. Friggin' bummer.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It was interesting to see Albert O get some run towards the end of the season. Do you take anything into that moving forward for next year? Do you see him being more involved with that offense, or is Noah Fant just kind of what he is at this point, like a fringe QB tight end 1 every year?
He should be better.
Well, he should, but reality.
I think the reality of this year is that the entire Denver receiving core is a miscue, and it's a question mark. Like everything on that offense from that perspective, I don't know what to believe, because it was the absolute worst case scenario. We talked about with Cortland Sutton last week. It was his worst case scenario. We saw his floor play out this last year. I think the same could still be true for Noah Fant. So yes, while his, tight end compatriot there, Albert, is going to cut into some of his work, probably because he's a very good quality player in his own right, and he deserves some of those targets that he got. But I think everybody should take a step forward, provided that there is a significant change at quarterback. I saw that they did re-sign Teddy Bridgewater, which gives me some concern.
Well, does it though?
Yes.
I mean, he could just be an insurance backup at this point, and
it could be. I think it was $28 million though that they gave him for 2 years.
Really?
And that's not a tiny bit. You'll have to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure it was in that range, and that's more than just like a vet insurance policy to me.
It is. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I just I did not see that, but that's interesting.
But to that point, though, we talked about with Sutton last week, I think Fant is still a guy that you should be going out trying to acquire because, well, the bottom was pretty bad, but not that bad because he still finished as a tight end 1 this year.
Right. All right. Next, the ageless wonder himself coming in at number 8, Gronk. We had finished tight end 3 in points per game and 7th overall.
Why can't he just stop, Dustin? He's tormenting me every year.
I think that's why he keeps playing, is just for that reason right there. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up retiring now that Tom is gone. That was the only reason he came back, I'm sure, to Tampa Bay. So I think we can not safely say, but with a large level of confidence say, he'll be outside of our top 12 because he will not be playing next season. But say he does stick around. Just say he does. Inside your top 12?
Yeah, if he does, he'll be inside my top 12 no matter what. No matter who his QB is, no matter where he's playing for, he'll be in there.
All right. This next one hurts our soul as Packer fans. We had Big Bob Robert Tonyan as our consensus 9 overall, and he got injured very early in the season and was basically non-relevant for fantasy purposes. I believe he's a free agent. after coming off of this ACL injury this year? Do you see him re-signing with the team? And if so, if Rodgers leaves, how does that affect his game? Do you still see him as on tight end 1?
Everything goes with the first domino in this situation. So a little bit similar to the Broncos, it's who is going to be at QB. So if Rodgers leaves, everything is going to change about the offense. There's going to be several key guys that are going to be gone. If Rodgers comes back, Tonyan could still be very useful, although I think we would be insane to rank him where we did this past year. And we probably were insane anyways. And we're just homers about it, I'm sure. But, even when he was out there and healthy, the great thing about him in 2020 was look at all them touchdowns and look at how much confidence Aaron Rodgers has in him to hyper-target him. And then we didn't see that this year. And, of course, everything went the way of Devontae Adams this year. So even if Rodgers is back, I'm not super thrilled with him. But if he's gone or he changes teams, I don't like it.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think he'll probably be one of those tight ends that is good for real fantasy football, real football, and not so much a fantasy relevant player.
Sure.
So
that's fair.
All right. Coming in at number 10, we had Dallas Goddard finished at number 8. So I feel like we were pretty solid on that one. Coming in at 11 was Cole Comet. Disappointed, finished in the 20s. Again, that offense was just a fucking train wreck this year. Nagy's gone. So hopefully there's better times for everybody on that offense.
And Jimmy Graham better goddamn well be gone. He had
not going to happen.
Leave quickly. I don't want any lingering news about Jimmy. Jimmy might not hang it up yet. He might be back next year. No, I won't accept that. We need to clear the path.
Yeah, I hope so, just for all the other tight ends on that team, but especially for Cole. I'm expecting better things this year, so we'll see what happens there. And then rounding out our top 12, we had Logan Thomas. Injury, again, derailed his season, so not much to say there. I feel like, again, process, we probably would have been right. He probably would have finished in that fringe tight end 1 area had he stayed healthy, especially with just the, Heineke being the quarterback there. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, hey, I want to pause real quick in the midst of this. Jason, our reporter in the field in the chat, Over the Cap still says that Teddy is a free agent. So that might not have been a full-blown contract that he actually signed. That could have just been a rumor of that happening.
Right,
so,
well,
fair enough. I appreciate you pointing that out, Jason. So we still a lot at play there.
Yeah, but definitely something to keep an eye on. That, even if that's a rumor, that's coming from somewhere. So chances are maybe a contract's being offered or they're in negotiations. But yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on, because that would, if they keep him, that just keeps a damper on the rest of that offense going into next season, if that's who they're rolling with.
Hopefully I just got onioned, Dustin. That would be the preference here, is that it was all just a wonderful onion story that doesn't have any merit, but we'll have to see.
I hope so too. All right, so we rounded out our top 12 here. Let's pick and choose some of these other tight ends that we want to chat about here.
I know who I want to talk about, Dustin. I know who I want to talk about.
Okay, you start, Jake. I'll let you start.
And I know who you don't want to talk about. Jonnu Smith. We had Jonnu Smith coming in. And actually, I was higher on him this time around than you were. So he signs with the Patriots, along with Hunter Henry, along with Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. And Patriots were just throwing money at people. And so Jonnu Smith, though, was the first peg to sort of fall, right? He was the first one to actually get the contract, and it was a big, juicy contract. And Bill Belichick says, we have plans for this guy. He's the best talent I've seen in ever. And then I rank him as my 12, you at 19. Collectively, we have him as our tight end 15, and he finishes tight end 43.
Oof.
What the actual fuck, Dustin? What's going on?
Yeah, turns out Hunter Henry was the better athlete and better receiver on that team. So who finished?
Hunter Henry, we had ranked at 18. Close. And finished 14.
Yeah, so we were close there. But I still don't feel good about taking a victory for that one because I was pretty out on him. And I'm just going to be out on all those tight ends.
So Hunter Henry doesn't earn your love after this year either. Okay.
He was buoyed a lot by touchdowns. He had a lot of, the short red zone targets there where he got a shit ton of touchdowns. So I don't know that that's something we can count on sustaining that for next season. Because his yardage was not that impressive. Jonnu got more yards, but Hunter Henry was the red zone target, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I figured it would have been flipped with just their athletic profiles.
What I expected in a way was I expected half of what we got out of Deebo Samuel from Jonnu Smith. Mm-hmm. In terms of utilization, I thought that's what we were getting. And the fact that it feels like we were lied to a little bit by Bill Belichick in that way, which we should have expected. I remember he fumbled his one rushing opportunity in week 1, and it felt like that was the death knell for him. And his season.
With Bill, of course it is.
Yeah. So,
all right. So next, this is kind of a tandem one that I want to talk about here. It's the Dallas tight ends. So Dalton Schultz ended as the tight end 5 in points per game, 3 overall. We had him ranked 36. Terrible. But we had Blake Jarwin, his teammate, ranked 13, who again got injured this year, so didn't really play. I mean, the 2 passes he caught were amazing, but how do you see this tight end field working out for Dallas next year?
It feels like they're both a trap still. And I borderline felt that way this year. I mean, that's why Blake wasn't even inside our top 12, is because how many people can Dak Prescott make relevant for a long stretch consistently? I think was the question. And then Michael Gallup basically supplanted any hope for, I thought, a legitimate tight end. But then Blake Jarwin goes down. Dalton Schultz has this massive season. And then everybody else was kind of lackluster. Even CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, from what expectations were, they finished worse. Dalton Schultz has a much better season than anybody thought. But it's is that going to sustain for next year? Couldn't it very well flip-flop and then the 2 receivers that everybody expected to succeed do, and the tight ends maybe take a step back? Because I don't think it's an offensive scheme thing that was keeping Dalton Schultz in there. I think Dalton Schultz looked better, though, than I ever thought he could. Am I being blind here by just maybe having my prejudices from previous years held against him? Probably. I don't know. But I don't think Dalton Schultz is going to be the guy next year. I don't think Blake Jarwin's going to be a guy. I think you should trade Schultz.
All right. How about the new tight end darling, Dawson Knox?
I fucking love Dawson Knox.
Finished 9 overall. We had him as our 23rd overall. Had a very impressive season, a lot of touchdowns this year. I feel like his role is pretty well cemented now for Buffalo. He managed to stay healthy for the season, which was kind of the knock on him going into it. We'd all wait. We were just waiting for him to be healthy because he had this great athletic profile. I am a total buy for this guy. If I can acquire him this offseason,
I don't know if that's how you meant it, but I kind of hope it is how you meant it when you said that, by the way.
Oh, it's totally how I meant it.
Okay. Cool. But now I do think that, he's a guy I'd trade for. Absolutely. Because you don't think that it was just a byproduct of, touchdowns like it was with some of these other guys. You don't think it's a Robert Tonyan experience for him.
Yeah. And especially if you could buy him now with the Gabe Davis hype, I mean, that I think is a move you should try to make right now and just use that. Well, Gabe Davis, he's going to be an integral part of this offense next season. Look what they did in the playoffs with them, and try to, lower that price a little bit for him. I think that'd be a smart move.
Yeah, it might be tough with Emmanuel Sanders already obviously on the way out. And people might just think, rightfully so, that, well, with him out, there's no reason for Knox's share to go away or to go down.
True.
And I think that is fair because he looked so valuable. You know how some guys, it's like, well, by default, they got the ball. It never felt like Knox got the ball by default. It felt like it was very intentional. And so it does give me a lot more hope than with some of these other guys. So I dig that. So easy top 10 for you next year?
He'll probably be right around that top 10. Yeah, I can't say easy top 10, but he'll be, 10 to 12 probably, all said and done.
Interesting. Can we make our first ever 2022 beer bet here?
Sure, if you want to.
I kind of do. Because I want to start just getting them on the books because you know how much I love our beer bets.
Okay.
I am confident already that Dawson Knox will be a top 8 tight end in 2022 in PPR.
Top 8?
Easily. So will you? So I know that was you gave a range there that you felt comfortable with. So is he outside of the top 8?
I'll take that.
Okay.
I'll take it. What the hell?
Love it.
I think that's a pretty good line there as 8 because that's right. Like you said, it's right in my close to where I was saying. So, just because where I have them ranked doesn't necessarily where I think. Sure. But yeah, I'll take that. I like that line. I think 8 is good. I'll take it.
I love it. And as we talked about last week, we're being better about having tiers and try to obviously make sure that, we draw hard lines for these bets because it's fun. But in the grand scheme of things are closer sometimes than they appear.
Okay, Jake, give us one more tight end here to talk about before we move on to our Super Bowl DFS spectacular.
I want to do one more tandem. It's Eric Ebron and Pat Friarmoth. So the Pittsburgh tight ends, weird. We had Eric Ebron ranked as tight end 24. He finished tight end 45. Pat Friarmoth, rookie, who we were ambivalent about, to say the least. He was our tight end 34, finished as tight end 16 in points per game. Going forward, of course, I want to focus on Pat. I want to focus on Friarmoth here. Do you think that he is going to make that jump, that his expectations should be what we had for Kyle Pitts going into year 2, or are you not quite that high?
Absolutely. I think the ceiling for Friarmoth is incredible. And I just pulled up Spotrac here for Eric Ebron. He will be 29, and he's only got $3.9 million dead cap hit. Which is his entire cap hit. So they can get out from underneath him if they want. I don't know that they would necessarily want to, but I'm just saying it's not cost prohibitive for the Steelers to get rid of him if they want to. But I think Friarmoth will be the number one option for tight end in that offense, and I do expect him to take a jump forward this season.
Juju Smith-Schuster should be on his way out. Maybe they work something to bring him back. It seems very possible that he could leave as well. So another short area guy. Yeah,
he legitimately looked like a tight end that's been playing in the league for years as opposed to being a rookie this year. Like he looked the part. He's only going to get better as he becomes more comfortable in the league. So wheels up for the Muth. I really think you should try to go out and buy him if you can.
Agreed. He just looks so comfortable out there. You love to see that in the first year.
Abso-smurfly.
All right, Dustin. Well, let's do it. Let's move on to our next segment. And I'm going to play the drop this time because I'm so proud of it and I love it so much. Here we go. Gonna play DFS. Gonna
How'd you get the boss to step in and
he owed me a favor?
Magic?
He owed me a favor.
Wow.
I know some stuff. Don't worry about it.
That's incredible. I'm jealous. All right. So we're going to do one for sure, possibly two. Well, I think we're going to start off here with our Underdog Fantasy.
That's right.
And so we've got our picks. Looks like we've got a special line.
I love it. Now it's grayed out. I don't know what that means when it's grayed out like that. I'm not.
Let me refresh the screen here. All right.
Okay. Oh, so there we go.
We'll take the over for 1 passing yard. I think.
Joe Burrow 1 passing yard. I think we can handle that. Yep. I love Underdog does this for most weeks where they give you just a freebie. We took it with
the early special. Yeah, I think you got to get in early because when going back to that one with the Niners game with Debo, that was not available come Saturday morning. So I think this is an early bird special. You want to get in on it. So yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that smash there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I'm curious. Right out the gate, they have so many good ones for Matt Stafford. So here's one I haven't seen before: longest completion, 39.5 yards. I've not seen that previously for other quarterbacks. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. Is that one that, to me, that seems like a smash over because of the guys that he's throwing to?
Right.
I mean, Van Jefferson by himself, that's if he's going to get a catch, it feels like it's going to be 40 yards. And then you've got Cooper Kupp just doing man things.
Cooper Kupp things. And I mean, you still have OBJ. I mean, yeah, I like that. Let's put it in there. We can always take it off if we find a juicier line here we want to do. So I'll throw that in there. So we got some Cam Akers.
Here's my question about Cam Akers for you, because I think he is a really good person to target in these props. It seems like Darrell Henderson could come back and play in the Super Bowl. So Henderson,
gross.
And Sony Michel now all sharing the backfield. Who knows who they'll actually lean on? Maybe they will let Akers run, but I'd be a little more hesitant about his and maybe taking the under on some of his.
Maybe like this 83.5 Russian receptions.
Russian receiving yards. Yeah, I might be down to that, or the 63.5 rushing yards. Pooh. One of those feels like I want to take the under on it. I don't know. I'm maybe with the receiving yards. Okay.
Let's wait and see. Couple for Sony. They're not expecting much out of him this game. 18.5 rushing yards, 7.5 yards for longest run. We got some. Yeah, we got some Cooper Kupp action.
The yardage for Cooper Kupp. Dare we spit in the face of Cooper Kupp and ignore 107.5 receiving yards, which obviously these lines are set for a reason. But if you have any confidence in this team, you should have a lot of confidence in that over still for this game. I know it's an insane over. I get it. But the dude is just so unstoppable.
He's so good right now.
Hansel, so hot right now.
God.
Longest reception, Van Jefferson. Can we point out that one real quick? So 18.5 yards, longest reception. We just talked about the 39.5 yard over for that Matt Stafford completion. Again, if Van Jefferson is going to catch a ball, it feels like it's a given that it's at least that long. So one could rationally assume one catch for Van Jefferson gives you incredibly high odds at this over.
Let's throw it on there? Yeah, okay. Let's throw it on there. Joe Burrow, we've already got our one Joe Burrow one, so we can't do another one. Although it is interesting to see some of these lines on here. But we've got our smash one there, so we won't even bother. Joe Mixon. Got lots of options here for Joe.
I always fall in love with only for him in particular. If they give you the half rushing plus receiving touchdown, I'm always interested in taking the over for him to get a touchdown in some way.
You know what, though? He let me down in the last game. when I did the over under for this, he did not hit that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a little nervous. Smash P. Ryan, I don't feel comfortable doing anything with that guy.
God, no. All right. Jamar Chase. Here's where we have to shift some focus to.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a Jamar Chase game? Is this a T. Higgins game? And does the lines reflect the possibility that it could be one or the other? That's what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So do we expect him to get a touchdown? Jamar Chase. That could be a very easy one if we just want to bank on. They're going to have to throw a lot against this Rams team. Seems very reasonable to suspect that he would be the guy to catch that long touchdown.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that one's pretty safe. I would take that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
And we got one more. We got one more.
Because we want to hit the 20 times payout.
That's
here.
right.
That's the whole deal. We want to stack these bad boys up.
So, any others that really intrigued you? I know you had said the Cooper Kupp one was pretty intriguing. This Joe Mixon one, the touchdown line was intriguing for you. Any that you feel real bullish about?
Well, I do want to call out this one for Joe Mixon. That is the rushing plus receiving yardage line of 92.5.
Mm-hmm.
If you recall, Dustin, I think the first one that we ever did for Underdog, it was a very similar line. We ended up taking the over because of the receiving yards buffer there, which if this was a pure rushing yards thing, I would never take this. I would never even come close to touching this for Mixon. But those receiving yards look pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a 28.5 pure receiving yards for Mixon.
Right. And that's what and he's got 63.5 rushing yards. So that gives us 892 yards. I mean, so the line is pretty similar between the two, as you would expect it to be.
I don't know why I'm so much more hesitant to just take the pure rushing yards with him. I always am. And it's not like he always delivers on the receiving yards either. It's just I feel really nice having that buffer for some reason.
Right. And if we're going to think that this Rams defense could potentially run roughshod over that offensive line, Burrow's going to be needing to get rid of the ball fairly quickly.
Absolutely.
Which you would think would go to Joe Mixon. Too many Joes.
Why you guys got so many Joes on your team?
So it comes down to the Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
107.5 receiving yards, or the Joe Mixon 92.5 rush and receiving.
Here's what I don't like. I don't like the idea that this bet could hedge on Joe Mixon for us. That really makes me nervous because if we lose because of Joe, we're just going to have that much more vitriol loaded in the chamber for him. And I don't know that I want that. It's too exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there any other one that you're comfortable with? Again, the Cam Akers one we could circle back to as well. If you have any thoughts about taking an under on Cam Akers, we could supplant him in there. I don't know if there's a Tyler Boyd option here that you're interested in.
Well, it's either 17.5 yards for the longest reception or 39.5 total yards. I don't know how I feel about that one.
No confidence there.
Yeah. The T. Higgins, that 5.5 is interesting, and I would want to take the over, but I'm not super confident on that either. What were your Cam Akers?
Yeah, the Cam Akers ones, whether it's the rushing yards or the rushing receiving, I would be curious on taking the under on one of those.
Oh, the rushing or this one here, the rushing and receiving?
Either or. I think both of them are actually very safe bets to take the under. So I'd be comfortable doing it for either. Even assuming that the Rams have a fairly good lead on this game. Like I said, if we're doing a narrative and we're projecting a semi-blowout, even with that, there's no reason for them to put this guy in further danger if the game is salted away. And they could lean on Sony Michel, lean on Darrell Henderson.
So which one do you want, Jake?
I kind of want the rushing yards pure under.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
And
we feel comfortable with this? You want to do a quick recap for the people listening?
Yes, we got Joe Burrow with the 1 passing yards, and we smashed the over on that one. We got Matthew Stafford with 39.5 for the longest completion. Took the over. We took the over for Van Jefferson, who will be taking that 39.5 plus completion from Matthew Stafford. We got Jamar Chase with over a half a receiving touchdown, and then the under for Cam Akers for the 63.5 rush yards. Good?
Feel confident? I like it.
Yeah, let's do it. Submit.
Right. We roll. Beautiful. What a beautiful thing we've done here.
It is. Do you want to do another one? Or you feel that's good?
Let's do a different style one here. I'm going to bring up Monkey Knife Fight. So just because, for the sake of enjoyment, on the Super Bowl Sunday, let's have more action going into this.
More action,
as much action as possible. Right? So let's take a look here, and we can do. Here is what's nice about splitting platforms is they have some different style ones on Monkey Knife Fight. So they have the touchdown dance, and that is, again, you get 3 players that you can add. Pick how many touchdowns you expect to be scored, and as long as those 3 players add up to the touchdown total, you're good. There's a sack attack thing, which I just like saying. That's trying to pick how many sacks there will be. That's something I normally avoid. For this game, that's kind of interesting because we're talking about the vaunted defense for the Rams against that awful offensive line. Do you even at least want to take a peek just to see what it says?
Sure, take a peek-see.
Let's just take a peek-see here. So the lines is for up to you to set. And then, of course, you get a higher payout based on it. You could do a 3.5 sack total and literally just load up Aaron Donald
and Von Miller
and Leonard Floyd and Von Miller. Just go literally all Rams and take the low. Oh, you have to choose from 2 teams. That's how they get you. We can't go all in on the Rams. We would have to pick somebody to get a sack on Stafford. I don't know if I'm interested in that anymore. What do you say we do a touchdown dance for this one? I always love doing those. So, obviously can't choose quarterbacks here.
Obviously.
But who is your most... Let's start with you with number 1. Who's your most likely guy if anybody here was going to get 2 touchdowns?
To get 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, I like to start on that hypothetical. Cooper Kupp, Joe Mixon.
2, it would probably be either Cooper Kupp or Chase.
Yeah.
Probably Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. I like. Obviously, I could never set this without Cooper Kupp in there. It would feel gross. And it's bad karma. So I'm not going to do that. I love that. And I think that we should just load Jamar Chase in there as an auto as well. So this is where it gets interesting. So we only have 3. We have Kupp and Chase locked in. Now, we could go, hey, Van Jefferson, he's going to catch that long pass. That's going to be a touchdown. It's going to be a 40-yard touchdown pass. Or we could go with the safety measure of maybe it's not a Jamar Chase. Maybe it's a T. Higgins game. And you could put them both in there. And I feel pretty good about it, actually. Or, let me ask you this. If you had to pick between T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, I know he burned you, and we just talked about that. He burned you last time with even getting 1 touchdown. What is your confidence level with him this time?
It's so hard to say. I mean... Not very good, I guess. If you pin me to it, I'm going to say not very good. I don't have a super high confidence for Joe Mixon for this game.
Then I say we stay away. Look, he wasn't going to affect our last bet. He's not going to affect this one either.
There you go.
He's going to stay away from it. What do you think about T. Higgins? Do you think it's practical to just go ahead and roll with him? Do you want to take one of the Rams running backs in case they do get that insane over in case they really get a buffer going?
Oof. I don't feel confident about any of these. That sucks.
Maybe I shouldn't rely on you for this third person that you have no confidence. Not a single player that you're smitten with here. Who is most likely out of this remaining group from a narrative standpoint?
Probably Higgins.
Yeah.
Or I could see OBJ. Those would be the two I would go with.
Yeah, OBJ is a really interesting one here too. I know I talked about the Van Jefferson long bomb, which again, still very in play, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But Odell Beckham could have a 2-touchdown game here as well. And I think that's very much on the table. Boy, I don't know. It's tough here. I'm torn between Odell and T. Higgins. I think either way that we play it, we're going to be sad because the other person is going to score like 2 touchdowns, if I'm being honest here. But I'm going to err on the side of the Rams doing what I projected them to do, which is beating up on the Bengals a little bit. And let's go with both Kupp and Beckham. Let's say they both score a touchdown. And then, you know what? Jamar Chase gets one too. Oh, and it didn't save. Hold on. Let me reload that. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase. I have to scroll down. There we go. Select. All right. Now, the line could be 2.5 touchdowns, 3.5 touchdowns, 4.5 touchdowns. I'm never a psychopath enough to choose 4.5 touchdowns, Dustin, but I believe you have in the past.
I have. Just because it's fun.
I won't be that guy. I can't be that guy. I'm very comfortable with 3.5, though.
All right. Let's do it.
Let's do 3.5. Let's put 5 on that one and have some fun here this Super Bowl weekend.
Whoop,
I love it.
I love it. That was great.
I feel good. I feel good about that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This is it, though. Last football game, and the off season truly begins after this Sunday. You know, a long fucking time until there's real football again. So go out and enjoy it. Spend time with your fantasy football loved ones on this Sunday, this last day of football feasting, because that's all we get. That's all we get. Yes, we get the draft. Yes, we get some free agency, but that's very intermittent football from now until July when training camps start. So enjoy it while you can, folks. That's right.
Store it in your cheeks like a squirrel for the winter. Just every morsel.
That's right. Anything else to add here, Jake, before we sign off this evening?
No, I'm just excited. Let's go Bengals.
That's right. Whoop. I know what I'm doing. So yeah, let's go Bengals. I love that. For my co-host, find him at Jake Trowbridge. You can find me at FF Dusty Dog. Hit us up on our podcast Twitter handle at Drinking Fantasy. We're here to answer all of your off-season questions, fantasy football related or not. We'll answer any question. We don't care. Hit us up, subscribe, hit us up on the old YouTube, ring the bell. It'll notify you when we go live every week, which if you want to see our beautiful faces and not just hear our sultry voices, you can choose to do that. But please go out, give us a rate and review wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We really do appreciate it. And tell your friends about us. And until next week, keep drinking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.
Wait, where's the outro? There it is.